our program and new to the show, I'm going to do a few new things today. Hopefully, we can get our little studio together while we're all logging on and making things happen. I want to make sure that you have an opportunity to meet each other, talk to each other, communicate with each other. And so, do me a favor if you're logging on to the show, if you're logging on for the first time, or it doesn't even matter if you're here, let me know what your name is, who you are, what company you represent, or product or service you represent, and more importantly, where you're from. Because I got people tuning in from all over the world today, and it's going to be a fantastic gathering. As we move forward, I want to do a few things. I'm going to make sure I get my lighting right and all that kind of good stuff, because this, there we go, this is going to be a pretty good show today. We've got an exciting topic. We're going to be talking about a lot of things, and we're going to be talking about a lot of things regarding execution. For those of you who are new to the show or tuning in for the first time, we have been talking about, over the last few episodes, we've been talking about execution strategy and why execution strategy is important, and all the fundamentals that you need to think about prior to creating whatever it is you're creating. I see my boy Jeff Watkins is on the call. Good to see you, my friend, my frat brother. Thank you for joining, man. It means a lot that you came through, and I appreciate you more than you know. We're talking about execution strategy, and a lot of times I think that people forget. They forget to really, in their planning, in their recruiting, in everything they're doing to get ready for a big moment, they really forget to plan all the way through. Jeff knows this as well as I do. You know, when you're a military officer, you learn to plan actions through the objective. You learn to go all the way through the objective that you're dealing with, all the way to the time where you're reporting and analyzing what happened, all the way to that moment where you're gathering your troops and you're making sure that everybody is safe, and you've counted everything, you've reported everything, and now you're ready to end. It doesn't end to get started. You know, execution is not about just getting started. Execution is about follow up and follow through and moving all the way through the objective and making sure that you've gotten what you want to get done, and you have recorded your results, and you've analyzed what you could have done better. You've thought through what makes this thing actually go. And I think a lot of times people have problems with moving through an objective, because along the way things happen, right? When you first start planning anything, or any project or any program or any event or any situation or any activity, you know, there are bound to be things that come up that are unknown. It doesn't matter how much reconnaissance you've done, how much research you've done, how much marketing study you've done. No matter what you've done, you're going to come up with against the unknown. All right. And coming up against the unknown is one of the critical failure points, the stress points that will ruin any program, any plan, anything you're doing. It will be ruined by just not knowing how to appropriately deal with the unknown, right? And I can't stress enough how important it is to be ready and make as a part of your execution or implementation plan a technique, a strategy of how you're going to deal with the unknown when it inevitably arises. So sometimes people plan as they're moving on a project or product. They plan so thoroughly to maximize the time and effort they have on the actual activity required to move through the objective, that they forget to plan and make it part of their plan places to stop, rest, think, and reevaluate, you know, your plan. I like this term, and I don't know when I first heard it or who gave it, who first originated, but this thought of all plans are soft, I think is a great thought. A lot of people don't like that thought process because they want to see a maximum perfect plan. And there really is no such thing as a perfect plan. No matter how much experience you have, no matter how many times you've done something, no matter how much, how efficient your systems or processes are, there is no such thing as a perfect plan. If you have a perfect plan to execute something that you want to execute, I think you need to rethink what you're doing, because I don't think whatever you're doing is helping you grow. It might be helping you repeat something you've already done, and you've done it so much it's ad nauseum, and it really makes it easier for you when you haven't really found any new ways to do it, any better ways to do whatever it is you're doing. It really makes it easy for you to take it for granted. It makes it easier for you then to fall back on your maintenance or your procedures. I'm going to suggest that no matter what you're doing, plan to change it. Plan to be flexible. Plan to look in as you are going through whatever you're going through and assess, how is this working? Because if it's not working well, you got to change something. Or you found something that you didn't know was going to be a problem, you have to assess how deep that problem is and how deep that problem will be. Now, I'm going to give you 2 key ideas that's going to set the stage for everything we're going to talk about later on. And those 2 key ideas are these things: information on one side and connections or new people. So we find that no matter what's going on in the world of execution or implementation, there are 2 key things that make it better or make it worse, right? It's a lack of information or lack of the right people involved. And sometimes information comes through what? People. So you can't get the information that you need to move forward without the people. Information could be anything. It could be more news about what's currently going on that you can be relevant. So in a space, it could be a new technique, a new process, a new strategy. It could be a new idea, a new innovation that you might want to adopt that you just didn't know about. And now that you've got this new information, you got to figure out how to move that into your plan. Because again, no matter how deeply you plan, no matter how much you research, no matter how ready you think you are, there will always be things that you don't know. Now, what do most of us do when we get to that moment when we don't know? How good are you at reaching out to the people who most likely have the keys to the kingdom for you? How good are you at looking at other people and other wisdom and coming up with the goods and coming up with what you need to come up with to make it happen? Can you win those people to your program, to your process? Because they're already involved in some other program or process. If you've got people that have talent that you have won to your cause already, and you still can't come up with what you need to implement whatever process that you are trying to implement to achieve whatever you're trying to achieve. So what do? I'm going to throw it out to you guys. For those of you who are on the call today, what do you do when you hit that brick wall? When you've got good people, when you have a plan in place, what is it that you do? How is it that you get the information that you need to get? How is it that you recruit the new people that you need to recruit to move this process forward? What have you done before? What have you seen before that really fits you? As those of you all come in the chat box, I'm going to try to do something special for you today that I haven't done before. This is a program that I've been sort of thinking about and listening to. This is kind of fun. Hopefully it works. If it doesn't work, then I gave it the old college try, right? I'm trying to get to my Spotify account as we speak. Come on, baby. Your computer's plugging along, and hopefully this will work the way it's supposed to work. Come Come on, genius. This is why you should get your studio ready before you start the live broadcast. Lessons learned, people. In any case, while that's coming up, I want you to think about what it is that is in the way of you achieving your greatest objectives. What is causing you to hesitate on your execution plan? Is it fear? Is it some kind of internal drive or motivation? Or is it something external? Is it something that, is an external objective or object that's getting in your way? Because one of the things I've discovered over the years is there's really only two kinds of walls, objectives that come up that slow you down or keep you from moving forward. And those are internal and external. And those people who have great execution strategy tend to know how to handle them both. And when they understand what they are, the character of what they are, and what to do about them. And we want to talk a little bit about that today and how effective that is. There are 4 key areas of concern when it comes to your strategy and your ability to overcome. And I want to post the document that I'm working from. Some of you may have gotten it from last week. Some of you may be experiencing it this week for the first time. I want to post the document in the chat so that those of you who are participating can see it. We're talking about information that comes from my execution strategy mastery program that I teach and I train and I deliver to organizations all over the world. And I think that it's so important for small businesses, for micro businesses, for entrepreneurs, for business leaders of all types to really, really think through a lot of the techniques and strategies that we have here for you. Because when you do, you basically will have done the best that you can do to make sure that nothing gets in the way of your delivery and you're moving through your objectives correctly in a way that's going to matter. And I'm going to go ahead and show the link here to that so that you guys can see it. If you can't see it, let me know. But I think you should be able to see it either in Facebook, or if you can't see it on Facebook, you can see it on YouTube. And there it is. That link is already there. So you could go right to that link and you can download the document and really learn it. Today, we're going to be talking about the last few basic, the last few pages of this document, which is literally starting on, let me give you a page number so that it makes sense for you. Literally starting on page number, here we go, 17. Think, plan, go for it. These 4 strategies, these 4 areas of execution planning are critical to your success, no matter what you're trying to do. Okay, whether you're trying to win a game, a Super Bowl, or whether you're trying to achieve a huge objective with your team, or whether you're trying to accomplish whatever you want to accomplish, you got to understand these 4 key areas, or your strategy, or your execution plan, or implementation plan, or project plan, whatever you want to call it, is gonna suffer dramatically. That first level of understanding is you got to understand, first of all, what skill is actually. What is skill? What is skill actually about? And how does this notion of skill affect you as an individual contributor, as a person who's achieving something? What does skill bring to the game? By definition, a skill is simply something that you do well. You do this extremely well, better than most, right? When you can do this, you can be relied on, you can be depended on to achieve something related to this skill, whatever your skill is. Now, most of us think of the skills we learn from school, the hard skills, like whatever is involved in our major. In my case, majored in Pan-African Studies, I majored in sociology, I majored in economics, and have skills that I've been trained in, developed in, and worked on related to those majors. But those aren't my only skills, and those aren't the skills that those aren't the skills that I always have to rely on. In fact, the skills that I rely on most, even in the attaining of those degrees and that information, was my skill and ability to assess information, to remember that information, to use that information in a meaningful way to accomplish something that I wanted to accomplish with that information. And that in and of itself is a skill. If you know how to study and you have great study skills, there's not a whole lot that you can't learn. If you have poor study skills, then learning becomes a challenge, right? And so it's not statistics that gives you a problem. It's not accounting or engineering or any type of structural mechanics or any type of bioelectrical understanding, right? That's not your problem. Your problem is you have poor study skills, right? And if you have poor study skills, well, you're not going to learn anything really well. And there might be things that you can use your study skills and learn better, and that's because of your innate desire or your will or your talent, right? Your basic core understanding of how things work in the universe might be more appropriate for certain areas of study than other areas of study. But the basic study skills are pretty much the same. And if you have those study skills, if you know how to read, you can comprehend, if you know how to listen, and you can analyze, you can ask questions and derive answers to those questions based on the information that you've got skills in the area of studying, right? But if you can't, if for some reason you can't connect the dots, your memory doesn't work that well, or your ability to gather and retain information either visually or audibly or wherever doesn't really work for whatever reasons that they are, then that's going to impact your ability to study well, your ability to learn. You may have a learning disability, right? These things are important to know because skill is critical. And I want to read to you some of my favorite quotes when it comes to skill, all right? And I love this one by Abraham Heschel, who says, "Self-respect is the root of discipline. The sense of dignity grows with the ability to say no to one's self." When you know who you are, when you know what you're about, when you understand what talent you have, what skills you bring to the table, then you know what you can put your effort and energy to. And when somebody presents something to you that makes sense to you, you know how to gravitate toward that thing and use it. When somebody presents something to you that doesn't make sense to you, you know how to say no. And you can say no with all of the fervor needed to just put that thing down and put it away. I think that's a very, very important thing, because once you've done a good skills assessment and you know and believe these are my skills in all 4 areas of my life, right? These are my skills, my mental skills, these are my physical skills, these are my relationship or emotional skills, and these are my religious or spiritual skills, right? Once you have a good idea of what those skills are, then you can see how they could come together in a unique way to create something that you have the ability to project and move forward in the universe. If you haven't done a good skills assessment, then you really should sit down with a professional development person like myself or some other person and really start to think through, what is it that I do better than most? What is it that I am gifted with that I have ignored in the past? Or maybe I haven't ignored it, but I just haven't put the right kind of effort and energy into it in order to explore it. Because I'm a big believer that every skill No matter what talent, whatever ability it is in every person, it has a trajectory. And that trajectory is, if you think about it as a seed, right? If you um, plant that seed in fertile ground, right, and you can reap a harvest. It could come up. It could become something beautiful, something meaningful, something that gives back to the universe. But if you take that seed and you throw it against, shallow ground or concrete or something, and you wait for it to bloom or blossom, it's just not going to happen, right? Because you've taken this seed, the seed that had all this potential, all this capability, all this, wonderful inert strength and energy and passion, and you did the wrong thing with it. And I got a feeling that most of us do the wrong thing with our talent. We do the wrong thing with our skills because we're looking for someone else to tell us what to do, or someone else to tell us who we are, or someone else to help. The best another person can do is give you information about what they do and who they are, and they can help you by maybe helping you figure out who you are, what you do, but they can never tell you who you are and what you are, why you're here. That's not going to be something within the realm of somebody else's ability. Yes, I know some people have the gift of prophecy, right? And they may be able to tell you in a certain moment that maybe you should be going in this direction or going in that direction, but they certainly can't tell you what your overall purpose in life is. And that's related to your skill. I want you to think about that. If you could take your skills and your talents and put them on fleek, right, so to speak, or put them on at their highest trajectory, right, so they can go to their maximize them to the maximum level possible for you. What would you be able to be, do, or have that you can't right now? Where would you be able to go with this talent, with this skill, right? The Buddha says, also I should say the Dalai Lama says, through the teaching of Buddha, he says, whether our action is wholesome or unwholesome depends on whether that action or deed arises from a disciplined or undisciplined state of mind. It is felt that a disciplined mind leads to happiness and an undisciplined mind leads to suffering. In fact, it is said that bringing about discipline with one's mind is the essence of Buddha's teaching. Think about that. If you know who you are, if you know what you're all about, if you know why you're here, if you understand what you bring to the table in terms of skills, there's really no stopping you from moving forward. It's almost like the universe has come together to create something in you that's special just for you, that you are here to deliver. Da Vinci says, you will never have a greater or lesser dominion than that over yourself. The height of a man's success is gauged by his self-mastery, the depth of his failure by his self-abandonment. And this law is the expression of eternal justice. He who cannot establish dominion over himself will have no dominion over others. Now, I personally don't believe in having dominion over others, but I do believe and understand that we have the opportunity to influence each other. We have the opportunity to gift of each other our talent and our skills. And I believe we have the responsibility individually to identify our gifts and to share our gifts with the world in a way that's meaningful to both us and to the world. And so when we do that, when we figured out what it is we bring to the table, now it's about figuring out who do we bless with this gift? Who do we give it to that's going to be good for them and good for us simultaneously? What do we have in excess in terms of talent or ability? When we discover that, then we'll know what we have to share that's above and beyond what is required. And that's where excellence really is. It's in the interaction and working with other people on your talent, on your skills, on your abilities, and making sure that those talent and those skills are shared in a way that they cause positive action to move our society and our world forward. Okay, in the world of skills, I've identified 13 skills. And there are many more than this, right? But these 13 skills are directly related to people who network, people who like to develop, and that's everybody, by the way, people who like to work with others and have to work with others in order to achieve the great things they want to achieve in their lives, right? These 13 skills. I'm not going to read them all to you, but I want you to take a look at page 19 when you get a chance and look at some of those 13 skills. Which ones are your favorites? If you want to, go ahead and put your favorite in the chat. Put the ones that you think are most useful to you or that you use the most. Go ahead and slide those thoughts into the chat. My favorite, and I think that is a skill that I have that I use all the time, is securing the commitment of others. Is making sure I understand who those people are, what makes them tick, and offering them what they need to have in order to move themselves forward. And in doing that, I secure their commitment because they see that my only goal in life is to see them move forward. And as a coach, that helps me a lot because the people I work with, they want to win. And they have their own unique definition of what winning is. And my job is to help them to deepen that definition of winning and then engage in the activities and the connections they need to engage in a way to secure that effort, to make sure that effort is an effort that's going to lead to the win they're looking for, and to teach them how and create systems for them, help them create systems for themselves that help them manufacture the win over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. So for me, securing commitment is the greatest skill, making sure that the commitment is actually real, that people will actually do what they need to do, what they should do, what they want to do to grow themselves. That is a skill I love. You may have different skills, right? You may think about things differently, right? You may be a master connector, right? You might like to connect other people. And you can do it through social media, you can do it through email, you can do it through all kinds of things. And that is of extreme value because you've taken the time to identify who specifically someone else should be connected to, and you've done what you need to do to help them maintain those connections and create those connections. And those connections have helped them drive more information in ways that they could have never had without the connection, and therefore value to their lives, to their processes, to the strategy that they're trying to have. This is a core skill that a lot of networkers claim to have, but they don't really have it. Because to be a connector is not just about, oh, you say you want to meet some point, let me see if I can't create some way for you to meet them. I know them, let me see if I can do that. That's, a novice connector. A real connector will make sure that the people that they're working with, people that are connecting with each other, have what it takes to win. They have what it takes to move their relationship forward. They're not going to be rejected. It's going to work. You want those connections to work. Because when those connections don't work, it's really difficult for everybody involved. And so as you look through your skills, as you look through your talents, as you look through your abilities, I want you to think about some of the things we shared with you today. And if you have questions, listen, feel free to put them in the chat. Feel free either on Facebook or on where is the other thing? YouTube. And I promise you, I'll answer. If I can't answer during the call, I will answer after the call, because this stuff is critically important for entrepreneurs, for business leaders, for people of all types to really get themselves in front of. Because if you can't execute, if you can't get done what you want to get done in life, it really sucks. So now after you figured out, what your skills are, what you're really good at, you got to think about this next form of execution I'm going to say, right? You got your skills, your tactics, your techniques, and your strategy. You got to think through, what is tactic? And what's different about tactic that is not like a skill? So I often tell people, you want to think about tactics like you would think about using your tools in a toolbox. Each and every tool, your ability to use that tool is a separate skill. Your ability to use a screwdriver is different than your ability to use a hammer, or your ability to use a pair of pliers, or your ability to use, a planer or anything else you might find in a toolbox, right? Your tactic is knowing when to use the screwdriver, the pliers, the hammer. Because if all you know how to use is a screwdriver, then every problem that you have to use the screwdriver. You look at it from the lens of, this is how I would use a screwdriver to go at this problem. Now, you may take that screwdriver and innovate and create a whole different thing to do with the screwdriver. I'm not saying that you can't. I'm just saying that the screwdriver wasn't designed to do everything, right? It was designed to do a certain thing specifically. The person who understands how to use the tools, or which tools to use in the toolbox, not just how, but which ones, is a tactical person. This person knows, this is how I will take this skill, this ability, this timeline, and make it work. And I'm not going to use the same thing for everything. I'm going to use the different tools that I have, the different habits, the different skills, the different abilities I have to accomplish this thing. Because I have a bunch of tools in my toolbox. And now I can use the right tactic for the right thing, right? Very difficult for people sometimes to wrap their minds around. So I like to use that simple analogy of the toolbox. Everything you want to do, everything you want to accomplish is going to require not just one skill, but a set of tactics using several different skills that you want to be able to choose from based on your abilities. That's why I said you have different skills related to different roles that you play, different parts of your personality, different habits that you have, different experiences, different people you know. All of these things pour into, I'm going to say, your tactical toolbox, right? I have a set of skills in my tactical toolbox. Jeff has a set of skills in his tactical toolbox. Scott has a set of skills in his tactical toolbox, and so on and so on and so on. Everybody has a set of skills in their tactical toolbox. And how they use those skills and how they put them together is really what the next part of our system is all about. But I want to hang out here with tactics a little bit. Skill is knowing how to use a tool. Tactics is knowing which tool to use. But there are a lot of people who've had different ideas and thoughts that you might want to share, that I might want to share with you when it comes to tactics, right? A.J. Darkholm, who's the author of The Rise of Morningstar, wrote, "No army is comprised of all the same kinds of units, types, or troops. There is power in diversity. If you always see one choice or use only one option, you will surely lose more than you win." See, that's the problem with depending on all the tools that are in your tactical toolbox. Because if you depend on all the tools that are in your tactical toolbox, you're going to run out of ability or talent, no matter how you combine them. And you can combine them in multiple different ways and multiple different times, right? There's only so much you can get just in your own tactical toolkit. You're going to have to look at the tactical toolboxes of others. You're going to have to, if you want to maximize the effort that you put on any particular project or any particular thing, you're going to have to figure out how to bring some new tactical elements into whatever you bring to the table, and how to work collaboratively together to achieve something greater than you could have ever achieved on your own. This is very difficult for people, because in order to know what's in somebody else's tactical toolkit, what do you got to do? Well, you got to find out. You got to find out. I don't know what's in your tactical toolkit unless I ask, unless I examine, unless I, maybe watch you, right? And I don't know if you're willing to use what's in your tactical toolbox or combine yours with mine to come up with something that we come up with together. So I got to figure out, can I get permission for that? Or how do I make that happen? In order to do that, I've really got to be skillful at the art of collaboration. Because if I'm not collaborating with others, I'm stuck with only within my toolkit. And that's not going to be, I'm not going to be a master in implementation or execution all alone. If you don't get anything out of today's conversation, I want you to get that. Other people have tools in their tactical toolkit. They have information, they have skills, they have abilities. They have what I call T3 resources, or T cubed resources: talent, time, and treasure. That's different than your time, talent, and treasure, because they have capabilities that are different than your capabilities. They have skills that are different than your skills. And collectively, you can work stronger with others and create more than either one of you could create by yourselves. It doesn't matter where they are. It could be somebody you look up to or somebody that looks up to you. They're going to have a different set of skills in their tactical toolbox. And your ability to help discern with them what makes this collaborative effort amazing is going to be a separate skill in and of itself. Because a lot of people are not prepared to play this game. And because they're not prepared to play this game, they're less successful than others. In fact, studies show that you are 5 times more likely to be successful in any endeavor for any length of period if you understand how to collaborate well with others. If you don't use this collaborative muscle, this collaborative skill very well, then you're just less likely to be successful, dramatically less likely to be successful. I mean, if I'm going to be 5 times more successful by working with others, I think I would be, and I have, by the way, studying how to work with others really well, how to network, how to collaborate, how to communicate, how to effectively work with others, so that others will share their gifts, their talents, and their treasures with me, and I will share my gifts and talents and treasures with others in such a meaningful way that together we create magic. But if people are looking to rape, rob, and pillage, or they're looking to exploit others, and that's all they're really looking for, then I got a feeling that you're not going to get the most out of them. You're not going to be able to get great execution. And again, studies show that when people are not in it to win it with each other, then they create more problems than they solve. And they end up doing damage to each other. So, Adrian Perlow said, "I don't give a toss about pressure. I spent the afternoon sleeping and playing PlayStation. And then I went out and won the World Cup." You see, people who are tactically proficient and know it, they don't have to worry about how they're going to achieve whatever they're going to achieve, whatever they want to achieve, because they know they have the right tools, the right people, the right assessment of everything they need to do in order to win whatever game they're playing. And so when you have that knowledge, when you've practiced, you've rehearsed, you've played every possible strategy against each other. I love this new. It's not new, I should say, but it's kind of new to me. I don't know how many of you have heard of this. If you've heard of a project planning process that is called ICE, raise your hand, or let me know somehow, some way in the chat. It's important because when you understand project planning methodology and what's going on now in today's world of PMPs, those project management professionals, right? They're learning better and better and better ways to strategically understand how to implement processes and programs without failure, because they're making the small bets, and instead of making a big bet, they're making the small bets the first part of the process, and they're starting to learn in micro elements how to become successful and learn which micro elements can be expanded to the macro, and so they can almost guarantee a win every time. Wouldn't you like to know that? Wouldn't that be cool for you? I think it would. I know it's cool for me. When you think about it, if you can define or create a process, a strategy, a technique that is so refined and perfect in its use of data, in its use of abilities and talents of other people, so much so that it's sustainably and tactically expandable, right? Or what they call, there's another word it's escaping me right now. It'll come to me because I'm having a senior moment, but it'll come to me in a little bit. Scalable, that's the word. When it's scalable like that, and it's scalable without the loss of a tremendous energy, that's really powerful stuff. It's really powerful stuff. And in the world of project management, they're discovering that. They're discovering how to scale processes and projects and products in a way that, and implement them in a way where they lose very little energy. They lose very little in the translation from going from small to large, which has been before now a huge problem. And we can discuss that in later discussions. I don't want to get involved too deeply in that kind of stuff, but it's important to know in execution, you have to have an ability to continue moving forward. And sometimes you lose that ability when you forget that there's other tools and other strategies and other techniques other people have that you don't have. So your tactical assessment has to be really, really good in order to move forward. Let's move to the next idea. All right. So after you have an understanding of what the skills you need are and what other tactics might be employed and which other tools you might bring to the table, however you might accumulate or acquire those tools from other people, there's another level of understanding and execution that you have to get to. And that level is technique. Technique is about how you use the tools that you've assembled to get done what you want to get done. You and your team have come together and you have a style, you have a methodology, you have a way of moving things forward, right? Once you've done that, the feeling and the emotional content that you can create generates in and of itself a whole different level of success. People, I love this quote from Dr. Covey. He often says that you can manufacture processes, programs. You can manage processes and programs, structures, techniques, but you lead people. People can never be manufactured. No matter how much we try to say that they are resources just like other resources. I mean, most of the last century was built on trying to understand how to use people resources and try to use them in manufacturing in the way that you would use other resources in manufacturing. And the problem is, because humans have emotions and feelings and their passions matter, when it comes to implementation, execution of almost anything, if the rationality needed in order to literally create an emotionless machine out of a human being, it's just not possible. Unless you're working with somebody who just doesn't have emotions. And then it's possible. But most of us have emotions. So that's something that we can't deal without. But technique is where the individual love and the individual passions and the collective passions of a group or team play in. And that's where they become a unique, and that's when the uniqueness matters and creates a sense of a feeling, I should say, of giftedness. When people go, they don't know how you came together and you did that. It's like a gift, right? It's like something that's so special, it can only be ethereal. It can only be so wonderfully bestowed upon people who have something special to offer. But whenever people come together and share their talents, that's exactly what happens. They do it well, and they do it with the understanding and respect and the love that they should have for one another, then great things happen. Martha Graham, who's like a famous, just an incredible famous choreographer and modern dance person, who literally, without her, what we know as modern dance today would not be. That's how prolific of a statement she's made in the world of dance, right? She's long since gone, but I find it, Jeff, you might get a kick out of this. There happens to be a professor that I went to school with at Kent State. He was a music professor. His name was Halim Eldab, and he taught African dance and movement, which I thought was crazy, right? Here was this Arab guy, or I thought it was an Arab guy, who was teaching African dance and movement to us. And I had no clue that he had worked with Martha Graham. He had helped her with music and timing and rhythm. And he created a famous piece helped her create a famous piece of dance choreography that's still something that's celebrated and honored today. And this was years ago. So I thought it was fascinating. But the reality is, Martha Graham said this: great dancers aren't great because of their technique. They're great because of their passion. Great dancers aren't great because of their technique. They're great because of their passion. See, there's something in the individual. There's something in the individual that when you bring it together with other people, when you bring it together with the right choreography, the right music, the right lighting, the right stage, the right audience, all of a sudden greatness is the outcome. You can't plan for greatness. You create greatness by taking care of all the details we talked about before, right? We talked about how, you take that talent, you take that individual, you take that love, and you find a way to offer it to the world in a meaningful way. When you can do that, you can create greatness. You can participate in greatness. You can witness greatness. But if you can't, then greatness will go to the wayside. It will be something that is very difficult to deal with. Okay, the final step in great execution planning that I will tell you is strategy. Now, I've laid these out before I go to strategy. I've laid these phases of execution as a linear process. And I want to warn you, this is not a linear process, because every part of the process informs every other part of the process. And you'll see as we move forward, we'll talk a little bit more about it, how that works. Let's talk strategy. Francis Bacon said, the best armor is to keep out a gunshot. Strategy. You're at war, and you're trying to win the war. If you get shot, you can't win. So one of the best things you can do is to not get shot. And how do you not get shot? Stay out of the way. Make sure that you're not in somebody else's crosshairs. if you're not a target, you can't get shot. At least not with traditional weapons. You might come upon some other way of meeting your demise, right? Through other types of strategies and techniques, but it won't be a straight somebody saw you in the crosshairs and pulled the trigger. So think about that. What do you need to do? What do you need to do? What strategies do you need to use to make sure that the obstacles that you're facing don't overwhelm or overcome you so much so that you can't be resilient enough to keep moving forward? You have to. If you're not overcoming obstacles, what are you doing? I got a feeling that you're not even moving forward if you're not overcoming obstacles. And I don't care if that obstacle is just your willingness to get up in the morning and go and get started, right? That might be an obstacle, but you've got to overcome obstacles. You have no strategy if you don't overcome obstacles. There's nothing in front of you, nothing that's keeping you from doing what you're doing. You're probably standing still, right? There's always a force working against whatever you're pushing forward. And so understanding how all that stuff works is critically important. And you have to understand how the biggest obstacles, the stuff that can take you off the grid, the stuff that can take you out of the game, those are the things that you need to have a plan. You need to have a strategy because they're coming. They're coming. They're coming to get you. And they're coming to get your team. And they're working like in every, I love the most of the sports analogies, especially the team sports analogies. And every time in any game that you want to play with a bunch of players, there's another group of players who want you to lose. And they want to win. That's offense and defense, right? When you're playing offense, that's the winning side, right? You're trying to get the ball down the goal. You're trying to get to the goal line. You're trying to move the objective. There's something against you. Defense is trying to keep you from doing that. And if they're really good at it, you're stuck. You're not moving forward. Those are obstacles that you have to figure out how to overcome. And you use strategy to overcome obstacles, right? Andrew Jackson said, take time to deliberate. I love this quote. Take time to deliberate, but when the time for action arrives, stop thinking and go in. You can't spend all your time in analysis paralysis. You can't spend all your time not knowing and so therefore not going. You need to spend enough time knowing so that when you go with some level of energy, some level of effort, some level of understanding. But no, again, like I said earlier, you're going to deal with obstacles that maybe you didn't plan for, maybe you didn't see coming. They may absolutely derail you. It may be impossible to overcome the obstacle. Now, either that meant you didn't do enough planning, you didn't do enough to plan, which you now learned, or you learned this isn't for you. Whatever it is you're trying to do, the obstacles are so great that it may suggest that this is not what you should be doing. And being able to discern, is this the obstacle that I should overcome or an obstacle that I should accept, is a part of how you put together your strategy. Because when you're putting together your strategy, there's a level of energy and effort that you must be willing to put forward before you say, time out, hold up, retreat, step back, reanalyze this whole thing, realize that either you don't have what it takes and you call in some reserves to shore you up to go at it again, or you're out of juice. You don't have what it takes. You're not going to be able to call up what it takes. You're not going to be able to reach for resources or anywhere else, nowhere else. That's it. It's over. It's time to call it a day. It's time to pack it in, go home, try something else some other time. Accept your losses, cut your losses, and try another thing in another way at another time, because I think that sometimes we get so caught in the strategy that we have, and we think that's such a winning strategy that we forget that we only have so much capacity. And then the stress of trying to keep going at something over and over and over and over and over again in the same way. It's just too much. It's not listening to the universe that says clearly this is not for you. Stop. I'm not saying give up. Never give up on you. Never not bet on you. I'm saying stop trying to do things that are clearly not in the cards for you. They're clearly not something that you should be doing. This is a tough one. And I know that, my friends out there who are paying attention, we've all hit those walls. We've all hit those walls in life where, you've planned this, you've wanted this, you've desired this moment, you've convinced others to join you. Maybe you've got some resources from other people that, are going to help you get this done. And now you're having to accept defeat. You're having to accept not just a setback, but an absolute rejection of whatever it is you bring to the table, whatever effort that you're trying, whatever effort that it's just impossible. It can't be done. You don't have what it takes. I think you need to accept that. I think you need to accept that. I think it's more loving and kind to yourself and to those around you, those who have supported you, those who care about you, those who are rooting for you, to accept it and then retract, and then go back into analysis again, come up with a new thing that you want to try to do and do that. It's more honorable to give it your all and learn than it is to give it your all and quit on yourself. People will respect you when you've given it your all. I try to tell my daughter all the time, the only thing anybody could ever expect of you is your best. When you've given it your best, you've given it your best. Then you have nothing to be ashamed of by saying, you know what, this isn't for me. I've discovered in the effort that this is not for me. Sometimes that's why the effort is there in the first place, is you can discover this is not the way you want to go. This is not the route you want to take. This is not the objective that you want to conquer. You want to take a different route, go a different way to whatever you define as success. But if you try something and you learn nothing from it, that is the true failure. Because you're not growing if you're not learning. My wife took some kind of personality test recently, and it showed up that she is a learner. She likes to learn. Me, I like to share what I learn, which is different. I'm a sharer, right? She likes to learn. So the reason I share this with you is that, no matter how you assess or come up with or deal with information or strategy with others, it's important that you know what works for you. And you don't know what works for you until you try something. Try to move something forward. Because there's no such thing as a waste of time unless that waste is, unless you didn't learn, unless you didn't grow, unless you weren't working hard to become what it is that you're here to become, or contributing what you're here to contribute. There's a quote, I can't remember who said this quote, but I love the essence of this quote. It's something like this. Every person is literally put on this planet. Every person that you meet is literally put on this planet for the purpose of meeting you and delivering to you something that you need to know to help you move forward. And if you think about it like that, then literally everything you want to achieve, everything you want to do, everything you want to be, it's just somebody out there that you need to meet that can help you with it. And if you spend a good portion of your development life trying to understand how those people happen and how those people can happen to and for you, I think you will have created something that you can rely on. Because you got to know everything you want to do, everything you want to learn, everything you want to know, everything you want to accomplish, somebody is already on the way to that same thing, know something about that thing, can contribute something to help you get to that thing better, faster, smarter than you can by yourself. And so that being the case, excellence, and I told you, I mentioned this earlier to you, 5 times more successful. You're 5 times more successful when you can work well with others to achieve the things that you want to achieve in life. 5 times more successful. You want to know how you can get to be 6 times more successful than most people? In that same range, in that same mindset, now that you're meeting people that you need to meet to create what you want to create, to get what you want to get out of life, establish with those same people a level of mutual accountability. And that's how you raise that notch to that final level. You're 6 times more successful than the norm. Meeting the right people, creating the right network, engaging in them in the right way, and developing accountability partnerships with them. And you will be massively successful. No matter how much time it takes you to accomplish this, whether it's a short period of time or a long period of time, this is the route to true human success. Now, for those of you who've been with me for this whole time, you can go back through, for those of you who haven't, you can go back through the whole series of the 9 steps to mastery and understand how to engage with people, how to build relationships, how to work well with them, how to structure your plans, how to recruit the right people, how to, once you've recruited them and you've got the right plans together, and how to masterfully come together and execute and implement whatever you want to implement. It's all there. You can look at the videos, you can look at the documents, the tools, the techniques that are there. It's all there. What I want to do now is answer your questions. Any questions that you have that you haven't asked already, throw them in the chat box. All right. I'm going to go through and I'm going to give a shout out to my faves and some of the people who are involved in this thing with us. But any questions that you have, throw them in the chat box. If there's something that you want to know more about or understand, just ask. One of the things I used to do at Coffee to You and Me when we were doing this live face-to-face at Panera Bread is I would tell people, you can't come to my table and not ask me a question. And so, try that. Do me a favor. Ask a question. Is something relevant to the conversation we had today, or anything that you think you might want to know that might enhance your performance, it might help you be, do, or have more in your life. Ask the question. That'll be it. You never know who might also want to have that question answered, or maybe thinking the same thing. And don't be shy about it, because if you don't ask the question, then you never know what information that others might share. What are the 5 people you need in your life? Okay, thank you, Scott. I tell people always, there's literally 5 helping professions or techniques. Let's just go with that, because it don't have to be a profession necessarily, but definitely a strategy or technique. The 5 people that everybody needs, no matter where you are in life, no matter what you're doing, you always need mentors. You always need coaches. You always need advisors. You always need consultants. And you always need, the last one, therapists. Right. So think that through. Let's talk about that for a second. Why coaches? So the biggest example I can give you is if you say you wanted to ride a bike and you want to ride the bike really, really, really well, right? And you have the 5 people. They don't have to be the same person. They could be different people. They could be various different people. Yes, advisor. Thank you, Scott. So you want to ride the bike. The mentor is going to be able to tell you, listen, I rode the bike. I ride the bike. I ride well. I know where I'm riding. I know what's still going on. Here are the lessons that I've learned. Here are the things I can tell you about how to do this thing called riding the bike. Mentor can't tell you anything the mentor hasn't experienced. And so I use this to let people know that if you're going to go look for a mentor, look for somebody who's doing the thing that you want to do. Don't look for somebody that you're just impressed with, because they don't have necessarily the skills required to do what you need to do. And they can't help you develop those skills. They can't help you develop the techniques, the habits. You won't be able to execute just because, you've gotten somebody who is outside of your industry, outside of your skill or talent trajectory, outside of your, it doesn't matter that they're great, whatever they're great at. If they're not great at whatever you want to be great at, they're not great, they're not going to be good mentors, right? They may be advise you to help you to find someone who could be a mentor, but they're not going to be good mentors. The consultant. The consultant is a person who could tell you, based on what you bring to the table, which bikes are better for you to ride. And they can help you even purchase or acquire that bike. They can tell you which races that you should run in. And they can help you get those races, in to your world and provide the strategy and techniques you can to get to that opportunity. Consultant's going to get in there. They're going to do they're going to do some work for you. Right? They're going to do it because that's what they do. They're consultants. Advisors just going to tell you what to do. They may be advocates for you, but mostly they're going to tell you what to do. They're going to tell you, I think you should do this based on what I think I know. You should do this. That's what advisors are going to do. These are the races that you should run. These are the bikes that you should get to. These are the consultants you should work with. This is the person that I think you should be introduced to. Blah, blah, blah. That's an advisor. They're going to tell you what. And then you just go off and do. They're not going to implement nothing. They're not going to do anything for you. They're not even going to do anything with you necessarily. They're just going to do it. They're just going to tell you this is what you need to do. A coach, however, is going to check you out. A coach is going to watch what you do, see what you do, and say, you know what? I think you need to try this differently. They're going to watch you on the bike, and they're going to see you riding the bike, and they're going to look at your form, and they're going to look at your breathing, and they're going to look at your stress test, and they're going to figure out, how to help you go faster, how to help you be more effective, how to help you be more efficient. And they're going to give you advice because they're going to be right there watching you. They're not going to help you do it. When you're not doing it right, they're going to tell you this is not right. That's not right. Or if you're doing it right, they're going to, you're doing great. Keep working on that just that way. And you're going to get better. You're going to see the results. They're going to give you what you need to develop your talent, your skills, your ability. That's what a coach does, right? A therapist is that person who's going to tell you, you know what? Let's help you figure out why you're afraid to get on the bike. Let's help you figure out why you're not giving it your all in the race. There's something that's probably in your past that's holding you back, that's keeping you from moving forward. You have the right coach, you have the right trainers, you have the right therapists, you have the right counselors, you have the right advisors, you got the right techniques, you got everything down, but somehow you're still not putting the right effort forward. It's probably something in your past. It's probably a mental block. It's probably something that happened, some tragedy, something that happened that's making you fearful, that's making you doubtful, that's making you hesitate, that's causing you grief or anxiety or stress that's affecting your performance. We got to figure out what that is, and we got to move you past that. Some people need a therapist. So let me repeat. Five things that you can do. The mentor, the coach, therapist, advisor, consultant. Those are the things that helping techniques or professions that people can have. Some of these are things that you can purchase, and some of these are things that you can find in associates and friends who are very good at those things, right? I suggest before you go to pay for them, you find the associates and friends who are already good at those things, because those friends and associates, when they figure out that you went to someone else to get what they would give you or do with you for free, and they usually find out, when they find out, they're going to be like, why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you ask me? Why didn't you talk to me about that? And they're going to feel a little bit like they were left out. They were going to feel a little bit like you let them down somehow, some way, because you didn't recognize or realize that they had this gift, this talent, and they were willing to share it with you. You didn't ask. I don't know how many of you have experienced this. I experience it all the time. You know, I hear something happen to a friend, or something's going on with a friend, that's something that I could have engaged in or helped them with, or helped them figure out how to deal with, how to cope with, or whatever it was, and I didn't hear about it. I didn't know about it until it was too late. And I always feel kind of, I love this phrase, some kind of way about that. I've always felt like, you could have called me. You could have talked about that. You could have shared that with me. Why didn't you? This is like, you don't trust me. You don't think I'm competent. You don't think I have the right character. What is it about me? Now I'm feeling bad, right? Because here's the thing. Every single person wants to be meaningful, wants to be significant, wants to be the one that offers something of relevance to the universe. And often it's not until somebody we know comes to us with an issue or problem or an idea that's within the realm of our expertise that we can help with, and then we do, and then they appreciate it, and now we feel relevant, special, significant, meaningful. You want somebody to feel meaningful? Great. Put them in front of something that they can knock out of the park. Put them in front of a problem, an issue, something that they could crush it quickly because of their experience, their expertise, their talent, their willingness, their drive, their competence, whatever it is that creates that energy. You can use that energy. And if you don't use that energy, shame on you. You've not only just wasted a friend, options of opportunities with a friend, you have denied them the ability to be special. That's something that they could have learned to impress themselves, validated themselves even more, even understood even more that, you know what, I do have a gift here. I could do something with this. I should try to do something with this. Instead of the job that I'm in or some situation that I'm stuck in. Now there's a way out. I can see a way forward when I see value. But if I can't see value in what I bring to the table, it's kind of hard to see a way forward. I don't know what my, earlier I asked you, trajectory. I don't know what the trajectory of my skills and abilities are unless others share it with me and go, wow, that's great. I love that. How do you know you did a great job? Sit back and wait for the applause. If the applause doesn't happen, maybe you didn't do a good job. Because when people enjoy what you bring to the table, they cannot help but respond. Even if it's a nonverbal response, it's a response. And you need to take that response as feedback, because that feedback helps you know what it is that is significant or meaningful that you created, that you achieved, that you brought to the table. And there's nothing more special. There's nothing more wonderful than knowing that you're doing the right thing. I see my friend Candace out there. Good to see you, Candace. Thanks for coming. My friend Jean is out there. Jean is an amazing attorney. I love Jean. Let me see who else was playing with us today, if I can. Maybe I can figure it out. I'm not going over there to check it out. Okay, that's all I know right now. If you haven't already, put your name or where you're coming from in the chat box. Do me a favor and do that. If there's any other questions, I'm looking forward to answering those questions. In fact, I got a question for you if you don't have any questions. in a few weeks, I'm going to be putting together a super conference. It's going to be literally um, several of my friends and associates that I've met and developed relationships with over the years who are gifted in very special areas. The whole purpose for this conference is to create funds and resources for SWAM business leaders, for small women-owned, minority-owned entrepreneurs in the Washington metropolitan area who need help with whatever. We're not, and I'm going to give that money. I'm going to do this fundraiser for the Community Business Partnership, which is a nonprofit organization that helps these businesses learn what they need to learn, achieve what they need to achieve to get ahead, build the right marketing plans, the right connections, the right information, whatever they need to be successful. And no more important time than right now has it been for those businesses to thrive because of COVID-19, because the various pandemics that are happening in our economy right now. The social economic realities of being an American right now are affecting small businesses the hardest, small women-owned, minority-owned businesses. And so I want to do something that helps move the needle forward for them. Obviously, I can't work personally with every person that's having an issue, but I can engage and create opportunities for other organizations who have a bigger capacity, a larger breadth to work with those people. And so the Community Business Partnership is a great organization. And I'm going to be doing a fundraiser for them. That's the whole purpose of this event. It's a massive fundraiser. But here's how we're going to do this. I'm going to have every hour on the hour a new speaker or trainer come in and talk to one of the three aspects of leverage that we're going to do. And we're talking about leverage. Leverage is called leverage. The Leverage Up Conference is what we're going to call it. That's the working title for now, unless I come up with something better. But the Leverage Up, we're talking about leveraging time, talent, and treasure. Trying to leverage the time that we have, trying to leverage the talent that we have, and trying to leverage everything that we value, which is treasure that we have. And so in that, we're going to learn how small businesses can work with each other to leverage everything. And we're going to have tons of speakers, we're going to have tons of sponsors, tons of opportunities. So if you know somebody that I should be talking to that can deliver a presentation on one of these ideas and do an exceptional job at it, or might want to sponsor the opportunity to get in front of thousands of entrepreneurs in the next couple of weeks. And it probably is a bank or an insurance company or some other major firm or organization that wants to work with entrepreneurs. I'd love to meet them and talk to them about sponsoring this effort and this opportunity, because I think collectively we can, my goal is to put together as much money as possible so that we can give the Community Business Partnership a great leg up and a great opportunity. I'm not even on the board or anything, but I want to do this because I think that organization has the greatest opportunity of actually helping small businesses in this area, and they're going to do well at it, and I trust them. And so if you know anybody that I need to talk to, anybody I need to see, anybody I need to think about, do me a favor, give me a shout out either in the chat box or in an individual message in a DM. Do that. If you love what we put together this last 12 weeks we've been together, I would love it if you would share the Facebook connection or the social media connection, if it's going to be on YouTube or wherever you found the video. I would love it if you would share with your friends. It would mean the world to me if you would do that, because I want to increase this audience. I want to make sure that we have a great breadth. I had over 300 people registered last week and maybe 10 showed up. I had a couple hundred people registered this week, and there's only a few handful that showed up as well. And so I realize now that in order to move the needle forward, I can't rely just on my efforts. I have to ask my friends and associates to jump in with me. So when you see a post or when you see something that you're willing to share, I would really appreciate it. More importantly than sharing, if you're engaging yourself, that means a lot to me. So if you have if some idea or thought that I have that you want to forward or believe in or ideas, just say, give me an amen or something. I don't care what you do, but I really, really want to understand what's was valuable and what's meaningful to you, because I can't do better at that without that feedback. And I need that feedback. I want that feedback in order to create more for you all. The last thing I'm going to ask you is, if there's a topic, if there's something that you want to explore, you want to find out more about. It could be anything from, Six Sigma or emotional intelligence, or anything about disruption or engagement, or anything that's going to move the needle forward for you. Let me know, because I haven't really thought about what I'm going to do the next series on, or even the next event on, for next Friday. And so I need to come up with some, I want to come up with some content that inspired from people who pay attention, not people who, not things I just dream up. I want to make sure that I'm using that meaningful. I'm doing the right thing with the people that work with me and that I want to work with, right? So having said that, we're going to sign off. We had a great time, had a lot of fun. There's a lot of tools that I'm going to be posting in the chat box for you, so pay attention to that. And if you haven't already, go ahead and download the execution book. And that, I think I'm going to be able to call it a day. It was great talking to you guys. I really appreciate you. And I hope we do it again next week. This was a long one. All right. Bye-bye.